London, 1840. The operating theater smells of stale sawdust and panic. No anesthesia exists. Pain is an absolute screaming reality. Before the gallery of eager medical students stands Dr. Robert Liston, 6 feet tall, imposing. A man who measures his surgical skill not in delicate precision, but in raw seconds. To survive his table, you must endure unimaginable agony, fast. Liston grips his bone saw. His eyes lock onto the terrified crowd. The horror is about to begin. "Time me, gentlemen," Liston shouts to the gallery. He pulls a gold pocket watch from his waistcoat. The room falls dead silent. Speed is the only mercy in an age before ether. A slow surge and an executioner. A fast surge and gives you a thin sliver of hope. Liston places a heavy hand on the patient's pinned thigh. The metal of the scalpel gleams under the dim lantern light. Flesh yields instantly to his cold steel. Blood sprays across his pristine white apron. 2 minutes. That is his personal record for a full leg amputation. Bone saws bite deep into marrow. The sound grates against human ears like grinding iron. Liston works with violent, mechanical speed. Blinded by his own arrogance, his hands move faster than his perception. He switches tools in a blur of crimson. The patient's screams fill the wooden rafters of the theater, but Liston is no longer paying attention to the man beneath his blade. His downfall draws near. In his frantic rush to beat the clock, Liston's blade sweeps wildly through the air. Steel cuts flesh, but not just the patient's. A sharp, wet slice echoes through the silent room. Liston severs the fingers of his young surgical assistant. Blood spurts from the assistant's hand, coating the floorboards. The assistant collapses in shock, yet the relentless clock keeps ticking. Liston does not stop the blade. Blind pride forces him to finish the horrific display. The knife swings back in a wide arc. It snags the coattails of a distinguished elderly doctor spectating nearby. The old man screams, believing the cold steel has pierced his vital organs. His heart fails instantly on the blood-soaked floor. He dies of sheer terror before anyone can react. One operation, one severed limb. But the butcher's work is far from finished. Infection now breeds in the shadows, waiting to claim the rest of its victims in the dark. The speed of the blade was legendary, but the air in the theater carries a deadly stench. Microbes, unknown to the surgeons of 1840, swarm in the warm blood covering the floorboards. Liston cleans his scalpel on his dirty apron. He wears his blood-caked clothes as a badge of honor. The patient lies bleeding, alive for now, but his wound is open to the filth of London. The clock has stopped ticking, yet a far slower death is already taking root in his veins. Across the room, the young assistant clutches his mutilated hand. The severed fingers bleed profusely onto the sawdust. In the chaos, no one cleans his wounds. Dirty rags are wrapped around the stumps to stem the flow. The young man's face turns pale as shock takes hold. He survived Liston's lightning speed, but the invisible rot is already festering inside him. Arrogance has claimed another target, and the flesh will soon begin to decay in the dark. Days pass in the cold hospital wards. Gangrene creeps through the patient's leg, turning flesh into black, full-smelling ruin. He dies in agony within a week. Nearby, the assistant suffers the same agonizing fate as hospital gangrene destroys his blood. The spectating doctor lies cold in his grave, struck down by cardiac arrest on the day of the operation. 3 human lives claimed by a single surgical show. A statistical anomaly carved in human blood. Robert Liston was celebrated as the fastest knife in the West End, yet his obsession with speed blinded him to the grim reality of his craft. In an era where survival was a rare miracle, his relentless pursuit of glory created a horror never seen before or since. A 300% mortality rate from a single surgical procedure. The gallery cheered his quick hands, oblivious to the fact that speed without precision is merely butchery disguised as science. The operating theater falls quiet, but the ghost of that day lingers in the wooden boards. Liston's name becomes immortal, bound forever to this bizarre, horrific record. Patients continue to line up outside his doors, desperate for the mercy of his swift blade. They know the risks, yet pain drives them into the butcher's grip. But deep in the shadows of the hospital, the miasma waits for its next victim, fed by the blind arrogance of a master surgeon. Victorian London hospitals were sanctuaries of agony. Dark, poorly ventilated halls reeked of pus, vomit, and rotting meat. Doctors moved from corpse to living patient without washing their hands or changing aprons. Sickness was believed to travel through foul air, a poisonous vapor known as miasma. In this atmosphere of decay, surgical infection was not an anomaly. It was an absolute certainty. Liston operated inside a trap constructed of filth and ignorance. To understand Liston's speed, one must understand the absolute horror of Victorian pain. Without anesthesia, a patient felt every single scrape of steel against nerve endings. Muscle tissue retracted in agony as raw bone was exposed to cold room air. Strong assistants pinned the screaming victim to the table with heavy wooden straps. In this bloody nightmare, speed was not vanity. It was the only mercy a surgeon could offer to save a heart from exploding with terror. Liston genuinely believed he was a savior. He possessed tremendous physical strength and unmatched dexterity. He could amputate a leg while holding his scalpel between his teeth to save precious seconds. Patients traveled from distant cities just to sit under his flashing blades. His arrogance was fed by the desperate gratitude of survivors, but his pride blinded him to the microscopic predators living on his unwashed tools, waiting to consume his patients from within. Operations were public performances held in tiered amphitheaters filled with paying spectators. Medical students sat elbow to elbow with curious gentlemen sniffing vinegar rags to block the sickening stench. They cheered Liston like a gladiator entering an arena. Blood splattered onto trousers and coats, worn home as grotesque badges of honor. Medicine was pure theater, and Liston was its grandest star, oblivious to the tragic carnage left in his wake. Despite the 300% mortality scandal, Liston's reputation did not crumble instantly. The medical establishment protected its icons, brushing off collateral deaths as mere tragic accidents of war. The dead were quietly buried in paupers' graves beneath cold London mud, but rumors began to circulate through the dark alleys of the West End. Whispers spoke of a surgeon whose blade was so fast it killed 3 men before the clock struck 3. December 1846. News arrives from America that will forever destroy Liston's gory kingdom. A Boston dentist has demonstrated the power of ether, a chemical gas capable of erasing human agony during surgery. Liston, ever the pioneer, resolves to test this miracle in London. The theater fills with tense spectators expecting the usual screaming spectacle. But on this cold winter afternoon, a silent revolution begins. Pain is about to be severed from the knife forever. The patient inhales the damp vapors of ether through a crude glass mask. Within minutes, his limbs fall limp, his breathing deep and steady. Liston steps forward, holding his legendary scalpel. The gallery watches in stunned disbelief. There are no shrieks, no heavy straps needed to hold the man down. The blade cuts through flesh in total, eerie silence. Liston completes the amputation in under 25 seconds, but the true miracle is the absolute lack of pain. This Yankee dodge, gentlemen, beats mesmerism. Holla! Liston shouts to the roaring amphitheater, wiping his bloody brow. It is his greatest triumph, yet ironically, his final undoing. Ether stripped the ultimate value from surgical speed. No longer was a lightning blade necessary to spare a human heart from dying of shock. The era of brute velocity was ending. Precision, patience, and eventually cleanliness would replace the barbaric showmanship that made Liston famous. Liston did not live long to enjoy the age of ether. Less than a year after his historic silent operation, an aneurysm in his aorta tore his life away at age 53. The giant surgeon fell, leaving behind a legacy carved in bone and blood. History remembered him as a brilliant anatomist and a pioneer of pain relief. Yet, deep in the darker archives of medical lore, one grotesque legend overshadowed all his achievements: the day his knife claimed 3 lives at once. The story of the 300% mortality rate became a dark parable for modern science. It stands as a chilling reminder of what happens when personal vanity supersedes human life. Liston's rapid blade was meant to save, yet blind arrogance turned it into a weapon of blind destruction. In the cold, quiet halls of history, his legend serves as a permanent warning. The pursuit of medical glory often carries a price paid in blood and cadaverous dust. Years after Liston's death, a young pupil from his own theater would finish the work he left undone. Joseph Lister looked beyond the flash of the blade to wage war on invisible killers. By introducing carbolic acid to sterilize wounds, Lister ended the reign of hospital gangrene. The bloody apron, once worn as a trophy by Liston, was finally recognized for what it truly was: a lethal cloak of infection. Science slowly emerged from the suffocating fog of miasma. Medicine advances through painful iterations built upon the graves of those sacrificed to early ignorance. Robert Liston was neither a monster nor a villain. He was a product of his brutal era, driven by a desperate desire to conquer agony. Yet, his story remains a grim reminder of how hubris can twist healings into slaughter. The tragic surgical show of 1840 endures not as a mere joke of history, but as an eternal monument to human error and blind vanity. Today, the cold floorboards of the old operating theater sit quiet, preserving the whispers of a terrifying past. Visitors walk past glass cases displaying vintage saws and dull scalpels, oblivious to the terror those instruments once inflicted. The echoes of bone-scraping steel have faded, but the lesson lives on. Every modern surgeon who washes their hands steps out from under the dark, heavy shadow of Dr. Liston and his deadly 300% mortality rate. Thank you for traveling back to this dark era with us. What part of medical history shocked you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and share it with other history lovers. This was Morbid Medicine, and we will see you in our next Dark Archive.